Namaste. Welcome back to Top Tarot Miners. And today I'm going to share with you some reflections on the Ten of Swords. And I thought that right off the top, I would read to you in entirety one page from the Thoth Journey Tarot, which is the card in the near center with all these beautiful colors here. Calm and meditative, she crosses through the molten orange pennant of the portal to find herself quickly engulfed in a blast of searing, singeing heat. She stands on a broad highway which stretches away into the distance, and on each side of her, countless rows of sharp metal swords mount a military campaign dedicated to conquering the future. So if you're unfamiliar with this particular tarot, there is an extended journey which has a very detailed description which builds towards the energy that you see in the artwork. The swords march on in the furnace-like environment, clattering and clashing, clamoring for space, jostling with each other for supremacy over their neighbors. The cut of blade against blade is deafening, a relentless assault on her senses, unraveling her mind into a fractured state of exhausted panic. Deciding she needs to try and take command of this unbearable situation, she sets off down the road looking for a glimpse of something, anything beyond the metal maelstrom crowding in on either side. For a glimpse of something, she sets off down the road looking for a glimpse of something, anything beyond the metal maelstrom crowding in on either side. Occasionally she catches a glimpse of green lying beyond the weaponry, but every time she does so, the swords quickly jostle together to block her view, informing her that the green glimpses are just a mirage, an illusion, an unreality. Becoming tired and disappointed with her fruitless efforts, she sinks, hot, heavy, and hopeless, to the floor, staring intently at a meager-looking plant, clinging to some sort of life in the hot hell of its home. Hello, Arya. I'm reading from the Thoth Journey Tarot's extended guidebook, just to sort of get us in the mood of this card. As she stares at the nondescript plant, tears of cobalt seep out from under its rough gray leaves, and she lifts up the leaves, allowing more of the blue viscous liquid to erupt from the earth, where it forms a puddle, the color of lapis lazuli, flecked with shimmering golden stars. The blue liquid begs to be used, and she scoops a handful, smearing it all over her arms. The color is mesmerizing, recalling the mysteries of 1,000 Egyptian tombs, or the sky after the sunset. Over the mountains of the Hindu Kush, she becomes entranced by the substance, smearing more and more over her body, until at last she is covered from head to toe in this alchemical ingredient. Starting to feel calmer and cooler, she looks up at the warring swords, seeing they have slowed their riotous insanity enough so she can see bigger gaps between them. Slowly they relax their movements, and the sharp-pointed weapons, which not so long ago were tense and jarring, gradually become smoother and more sinuous. As the gaps between them become wider and wider, the weapons blend into the landscape until finally all she can see are the rustling ranks of bulrushes growing on the banks of a cool blue river as it meanders calmly through a parched land. Walking thankfully along the riverbank, all manner of small animals emerge from where they had been hidden in the rushes. The animals from her childhood stories. A large turtle comes first, closely followed by several rabbits. A hedgehog appears next, a tortoise, and others. These animals are her helpers, always with her as long as she remembers them. Like a child waking from a bad dream, she looks out over the calm landscape and wonders at the harsh power of her waking terror and how vivid and destructive it was. She looks at the small animals around her feet and decides to remember them quicker in the future, for they are always there, waiting in the bulrushes, waiting until she needs them to help. Hearing the clear clarion call beckoning her back, she turns away from the river to see the orange pennant of the portal fluttering in the cool breeze and showing the golden hue of hope in the morning sun as she walks back again into the hallway of beginnings. And once again, if you're unfamiliar with this book, each page begins, each story, each card begins in the hallway of beginnings and ends in the hallway of beginnings. And then there's this journey into the card. It's really a potent book. And I absolutely love the artwork in this deck. One thing that, and I have read this book through in entirety a few times and have done a deep dive with this deck over a long period of time last year. I love the creative way that these extended journal entries invite reflection into Golden Dawn correspondences, and the creative way that all of this is displayed. So the transformation of the swords to bulrushes is really clever. The use of the dreamscape, the nightmarescape. And a few things I want to mention. One is she talks about the swords and how the space begins to develop between the swords. And this is something that's been really sort of eye-opening to me in the 8, 9, 10 of Swords journey, end of Gemini, and how so let's look at, this is the Tildwick, so you know this image from the Marseille. When you're looking at a deck like that, how the more swords that are on the page, the more crowded it becomes. Like the more crowded the mind becomes, the more crowded the thoughts become. And I love this description that if we are to look for the space between the swords and allow the space between the swords to expand, then we will find the peace, the calmness, the stillness, and we will know how to use this as a tool, as a resource. And I love the way she calls in her childhood animal friends as well too. It's really beautiful. So 10 of Swords, end of the suit of swords, the wheel of air, the transition from perhaps the suit of swords to the suit of cups, whether you're looking at that in terms of oh my goodness, there's a couple ways we can do this. So if you are using Golden Dawn correspondences, this deck is one of that. Wands, Cups, Swords, Pentacles. So possibly the journey from the mind into the material world. That is one. Another possible path would be to go into the suit of Cups from the end of Gemini to the beginning of Cancer. And if you think of let me just grab a Waite Smith card here. This idea of creating space between the swords is it's so brilliant. We've talked about this a few times in a couple of the classes that I've been teaching about the idea of the swords representing noise. And I know that I have shared a couple cards in the sword section from the Numinous Tarot and how that deck uses bells. And you go from a crystal clear bell to gonging chimes. And there's something about the clearness of sound, the experience of noise, that's all very relative here. And we are seeking peace ultimately, and being able to still the mind and find the space between the noise. And you may, it's funny, I've kept this banner up. Where is it here? Right here. This is a Yoga Sutra. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga is the stilling of or the eradication of the vrittis. And the vrittis are the noise. They are the disturbances of the mind. And so yoga is the stilling the disturbances of the mind. There's a lot of different ways we can view this. Ooh, I've got a Rumi quote here too. Maybe not related, but similar. A secret freedom opens through a crevice you can barely see. So if we begin to focus on that narrow crevice, it will expand. We will see more. We will open to possibilities. This particular Daikon is a solar Daikon, and it warms us and brings illumination, I think, hope, possibilities. However, there is a need to surrender to the process. And I like how in that journal entry, at some point she lies down. And it's through the process of lying down that she's able to bring this under control. And while the figure in the Waite-Smith deck is face down on the ground, and it's a surrendering, right? It's almost like a prayer, a connection with the earth. One question that I don't know if I'll have the answer for today is the prana mudra, the gesture that links this particular card to the Hierophant card in the Waite-Smith iconography. And prana mudra, the gesture that is often used as a blessing in the church, from a priest or a clergy, is also a yogic gesture known as prana mudra, which increases vitality in the body. It's a wonderful healing energy. And I remember at one point reading one of Crowley's books where he actually has a yoga book. I don't really like the way it's written, but it leads me to believe that he knew quite a bit about practices of yoga, and I'm wondering if that was something that was studied behind closed doors in Golden Dawn teachings. Sorry, kind of rambling here, but this is all great goodness. We must journey into our darkness. This is from the Literary Tarot, and the muse for this card is Conrad's Heart of Darkness, which is kind of as grim as it gets. But I think it is a reminder that sometimes the dawn, the greatest awakenings, the greatest cleansings come when we do hit rock bottom. And it's almost like we must surrender to the process. If we continue to hold on so tight, and you can think about, again, go back to the sound metaphor, just how painful that is when the strings remain so very tight. And when I think about, I remember when I don't know if it was in high school or university, reading Heart of Darkness and studying that book, and it may have even been in a psychology class. It is it can be hard medicine to swallow how deep and dark we must go in order to begin the ascent out of that darkness again. And that, of course, is experienced in many different levels and many different ways, but if we are unwilling to face that, then it will has the potential to haunt us for lifetimes. So, really potent card here. I pulled out, now this is kind of a difficult card. This is from the Enchanted Tarot. And while there is a specific story suggested here, and you can make up your own, there is a mother holding a sick child or a dying child or a dead child. Another thing that comes to mind is, what if we were to hold our inner child tenderly in that way, with the insight that as an adult, we have the ability to hold the traumas of our inner child and help that child to release them and to let them go. And I know sometimes this gets confusing with the crossover between swords as mind and thought. Yet the connection with air and heart is so potent, poignant, and repeatedly comes up in a number of paradigms. And so there is a lot of heart in this card. And how interesting that title, The Heart of Darkness, that book. Now, another haunting card. This is from the Tildwick Tarot. And in my deep dive, I have done a deep dive of this deck on my channel if you're interested. I imagine many of these cards, I have made up my own stories to go with what's happening here. And this may be a locked room, a prison. Maybe it was a place that somebody was trapped in. And there's something really haunting about the blood smear on the wall. In Da Vinci Code, near the beginning, where the curator writes the secret message in blood, I don't know, I think there's just something really deep going on in this card. And the thing I like about this deck is the nooks and crannies and the secret places and the little things we see on desks and tables that help to build meaning and understanding. This is an empty room with cold air, and yet while this is described as an inkwell, Sadhana, the yogi, sees a Shiva lingam and a connection to spirit. And I don't know, I just think this is a beautifully mysterious card. 10 of Swords we must surrender to the situation. And what if we were trapped somewhere? Or what if we were imprisoned, facing our hitting rock bottom, facing our, at that time, darkness, letting ourselves completely feel it, surrendering to it. I think this card says that that is the way. That is the way through. That is the way through to find peace. If we want those swords to part, if we want to find that space, we need to be entirely in that moment, like Joanna surrenders and lies down in that dream she has in the Thoth Journey Tarot. Okay, so I have a couple other cards on the table. This is the revisioning of the... Unfortunately, I don't have the original of the Ten of Swords and the Light Seers. I would like to have that card. I would like to sit with that card. And anyway, unfortunately, it was changed. This one's a pretty good one as well, too. The surrender here. I see the surrender in the blowing of the fabric on the skirt. You do have that sense of solar decan. The sun is rising. There is a gentle sort of orangey color that is coming into the background. The birds, I'm just looking at the birds. While they're all kind of going in the same direction, it's still a bit scattered. It's still a bit noisy. They're not flowing in a perfect V or a perfect shape yet. I think there's a few different things that might arise in this card. And there's a surrender to the unknown as well, too. We don't see what is in the distance. And I'm sure most often we don't think about the Ten of Swords as a journey card, but it is one of those cards that requires trusting what's next, not needing to know what is next, letting go of knowing. Letting go of knowing. Yeah. Now, this card might horrify some of you that I picked this one. And I'm going to read you Emily Carding's poem for this one, and then I'm going to speak to it because I see it a little differently. No surprise there. So all must bleed and melt away. Before the dawning of the day, the tree must fall and land forlorn. This dream must die to be reborn. When I saw this card, I thought, oh my God, what a brilliant card. What I'm seeing here is a piercing of the third eye chakra. A piercing, a decalcification of the pineal gland. All the gunk, the guts comes rushing out. It's a card of cleansing, letting go, and it's just amazing. Like, I don't know if you've ever had a session, I don't know what the word would be, where something quite literally begins to melt away, and there is a sense of lightness and freedom that comes with the release of, like if you released a cyst and that had been something that was with you for a long time, and then you were left with, and then you didn't have that. I don't know what I don't want to get too graphic here, but this is such a potent card of purification. Okay, so the corvid family, right? Ravens, crows. I don't know if starlings are corvids. They don't fly in formation, yet they almost never have collisions as they travel like an ever-changing cloud across the sky. Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah, so this card, I find this card is such a gift. And it might take some time to talk, to talk a querent through the degree of letting go that is required in this card. And it is ultimately so very, very freeing. And I find that it's one that might require some tools to accompany the reading. But when this arises, it's great work. It's great work. Okay, so not a lot of cards on the table today, but I would like to, I'm going to name all these decks again, and then just my exercise is to choose 5. Tarot of the She will most definitely stay on the table, as will the Thoth Journey Tarot. And I find this one quite poignant, especially when I think about it in terms of tender, loving care of the inner child. The Literary Tarot, this card is from Literary Tarot. I appreciate the reminder that sometimes we must truly hit the depths of our darkness and find the courage to do so. This one really speaks to that notion of surrendering to the process. And I love the river metaphor. It all works really, really well for me. Okay. And then I'm going to choose the Tildwick. So really I'm only just putting aside the Light Seers Tarot. Because this card helps to build story. It helps to build connection. We don't see, obviously, in front of us what has happened. We need to find a story to go with the smear on the wall, the empty, cold room, imagining where it might be. So there's a few cards in this deck that really speak to me, and this is one of them. And if you're curious, I can read you the description from the PDF. The table shows an inkwell, a letter, a cut throat razor. On the wall is a swash of blood. The male and female caryatids upholding the table and the modeled decoration of weapons suggest that broken relationships and betrayal are at the root of the card, and it's sorrow. So that's a image description. Yeah. Okay, so thank you. Not the most pleasant of topics, but I think an important card to dive into. Left to right. Just let me zoom out a tiny bit. Tarot of the She, Tildwick Tarot, Thoth Journey Tarot, Literary, and Enchanted Tarot. And I will, I have, 14, 15, 16, 17 more cards to go. Yes, I agree. I agree, Arya. Yeah, this what I wanted to say is I will complete this process eventually. I've done lots and lots of journeys like this, reflecting on certain decks, and I can't tell you how every, whether it's a tarot challenge or it's a study of an independent deck, it's such an invaluable process to learning more about not only the tarot, but about myself and my response to various cards. So thank you, as always, for your comments, and those of you watching the replay. I really look forward to having you chime in down below. Thank you. Take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you very soon. Namaste.